Even with the turnaround that we saw in the markets yesterday, we've heard time and time again traders saying that we need official audit results of the 14 remaining banks to be released before any sustainable recovery can be factored in here. Your view on where we're at right now?
Hi, Alishia. Morning. Very true. Those statements are quite correct. We saw, an increase in the markets performance yesterday, gaining 5 basis points. I think it was mostly because of positive expectations from the CBN governor's speech that was to happen on the floor later in the day. We saw stocks of the 5 banks that had been indicted, Oceanic, Afribank, Finbank, and Union Bank actually see quite some offers yesterday. Quite some bids yesterday. A lot of investors took up some of the stocks that were being offered. So, and that was quite interesting because prior to now we've just seen a major sell-off for those banks. So I think there were positive expectations of what will come out from his speech. That's probably one of the reasons why we saw an improvement in the banking sector index, because also the Sanusi 5, that's the 5 that were cleared, also saw almost limit top performances yesterday in their share prices.
Well, of course, Governor Lamido Sanusi, accompanied by the new managing directors of the 5 troubled banks, visited and addressed brokers at the NSE yesterday. Was there anything in particular that stood out from that address for you?
To a large extent, yes. Key thing, he noted that the key man structure, which to a large extent is seen as a major cause of the level of non-performing loans that we've seen in most of these banks, would not be allowed to continue, either for the 5 banks that have been indicted or for those 11 and then plus the other 3 which are yet to be completed, banks that are yet, the results are yet to be released. And so that the key man structure, which has been in place for many Nigerian banks prior to now, would not be allowed to continue. He also indicated that he was not particularly saying that he wanted to sell the banks to strictly foreign investors. They were open to local or foreign investors who could show that besides any cash injection that they were looking to bring in, they also had the technical competencies to bring in a proper corporate governance structure, proper ethics structures in place to bring into these 5 banks. Those were the key things he was interested in, not just the cash injections which they were thinking or looking to bring to the table.
Well, of course, while we've got the CBN seeking out favorable policies that will contribute meaningfully to the growth of the capital market, we've heard in reports that Nigeria's Intercontinental Bank has recovered about 30 billion naira. That's the equivalent of $200 million in bad loans in the months since the central bank actually intervened here. What's market reaction to news like that been so far?
I think that the market sees it from the point of view, from a more holistic point of view, not in terms of specifics. They are more looking at what's going to happen to, first of all, the balance of the 14 results we're yet to see, as well as the 5 banks in terms of their readiness for sale, their potential sales. The CBN governor actually mentioned that the CEOs that have been put in place for these 5 banks were not interim CEOs, but they were there to basically run the bank as typically would be. And so they were there to run the bank and prepare the banks for a possible sale. And so I think the market is looking at it from a more holistic point of view than from the terms of fact that, okay, these are individual recoveries that are being made.
So let's talk about the running of these banks then. Of course, on the one hand, we've got debt recovery, a focal point for these new managers. On the other hand, they've got to be paying attention to actually growing their deposit base as well. And images have been tarnished. That's undeniable. So how do you see these managers actually growing their deposit base moving forward with the reputations they now hold?
And to a large extent, growing the deposit base in this time is quite challenging. Even for the banks who have scaled the audit, they have acknowledged significant challenges in terms of the economic environment to being able to grow a deposit base. We've seen for results that have come out so far, and for banks who we've spoken to, growing deposits is a challenge. some of the 5 who have scaled the banking audit have seen some flight to safety in terms of some customers bringing funds to them from the banks who have been indicted so far. But in terms of actually growing new deposits, that would be a challenge even for the cleared 5 or for these new for the banks which have been indicted. The Mrs. Funke Oshibode for Union Bank actually mentioned a couple of things that the banks were trying to do in order to improve operations. She mentioned the fact that they had started sending staff to training schools in terms of trying to improve the capacity existing within the banks. And I think that's what a couple of these bank MDs will have to do, try to improve operations in preparedness for when there will be an economic recovery and when they can actually improve their operations.
Looking at actually shoring up their capital bases in that regard, I mean, a broker that I was chatting to earlier this week, Kemi, had highlighted how Nigeria needs to develop a stronger fixed income market to stimulate activity in the primary market as well. Would this be the opportunity for some of these, these collapsed banks to actually follow the lead of GT Bank, UBA and First Bank, making headway in actually issuing corporate bonds?
Well, that's an option they could actually explore. But, I mean, the issue would be what value proposition would they be making to investors until they tidy up their books, until they clean up their acts, until they create whatever structures are required that would appeal to investors. I don't think they would be able to take the steps that all the other banks have taken so far. It's an internal cleansing process that is necessary right now. They have to make sure that their internal processes are well in place. And I think that's probably going to be their focus for now.